Now, I know you had mentioned that um, and this was way in the beginning about how funding has been cut. Okay, I mean we're talking two, 3 million. I mean $30 million.
Well, they had so we COVID, okay? COVID changed a lot for everybody, right? But for us, it was $60 million that changed for us because that's when we brought in what's called the ESSER funds, okay? So the Fed said, okay, we're going to help you through these ESSER funds during COVID. That was $60 million. So then that went away when COVID ended, or when they said it ended. Yeah. So we had to recover, make up 60 million. Of course, it was less because of the changes with charter and losing enrollment, and so yeah, $60 million. That's how much of an impact that had on us. So on top of that, our schools, right? Let's talk about our structure, right? Our buildings. They're more than 100 years old. Okay, so how do we? I mean, how do we still keep a school looking good and functioning properly without
Updating
and we don't even want to
the
go into
system.
bonds, right? Because our community, that's a big commitment and that's a lot of money, and you have to get the buy-in from the community. So again, finance, that's what I focus on because it equates to all these, or out of this, it equates to something material for me.
Yes.
And as far as the cost, the effect, the impact. So.
Oh, and I think I want to kind of transition into like operations because that kind of ties into that. Is that this is one thing that I constantly say to parents or anyone who says, we need this now, we need this tomorrow. Let's say an example. There was an example where parents saying, we need to have a fence put somewhere, right? And the thing is, we all agreed, yes, we do need a fence. However, nothing works fast in government, and sometimes, and then mostly, it's a good reason. The reason I said is because in order to get a fence built, we can't just say, hey, we're gonna go hire this person,
Correct.
build a fence.
Correct.
No, that's illegal,
I know.
right? Well, but
Of course.
no, the audience,
Yeah.
you know everything.
I know, but it wasn't like that back in the day.
Been there, done it.
Well, we're not
seen
trying
it,
to
I've
bring
seen
Yeah.
it.
and I guess from that perspective, whenever we need something like operationally, whether it's HVAC, anything like that, even a vehicle, we have to at least send out,
For
we
bids.
need to ask three people, yes, and a minimum three people for bids, or three companies for bids. Then we have to go through that process, work to get the lowest price we can for what we need, and that is typically a minimum 6 month process. I would say even 6 to 9 month process. Meaning everything we want to do this
That should be done, it needs to be done.
well, no, I mean everything that needs to be done this year will not get done until next year. And that's the long-term thinking that we as board members need to have, because we're saying yes, we agree. There is a laundry list of things, our aging facilities, our safety, like the fence, things like that. However, when we bring up something, that starts the clock 6 to 9 months to 12 months sometimes to get that done. Now, most people are impatient. They're not going to want to. Then we're gonna forget, and then it doesn't happen. So that typically happens. Something will be brought up. Oh, we need that fence because something happened. 3, 4 months later, it's not a thought anymore. What we have to consider is this actually worth putting our money towards, and is this actually going to make a big enough difference to spend these amount of resources? Because at the end of the day, it's time, it's money that we're getting less and less to do, and so that's just something that I want to just share that I've learned from being on the board is that. When we ask something of the superintendent, because he's our only employee, we're not in charge of anybody else.
Correct.
He's our only employee. That we have to consider: do we want this person to spend the next 6 to 12 months on this project? And if it's a no, then we drop it, or maybe it's not yet, where we put it on another timeline. So, and imagine doing that, but for every decision in the district, multiply that. And we're considered a medium-sized district, but that's still, we have several buildings, we have lots of property in the district, and if they all need new air conditioning, we can't afford that without some,
One campus is $13 million for an HVAC system for one of our schools.
No,
Very
yeah.
expensive.
Is it important? And is it? And sometimes, you know, sometimes it's cheaper to just repair it in the short run.
Sure.
But in the long run, I mean, frankly, I mean, it's gonna cost us. But you know,
I
we need that
remember when
extra
the
help
community
sometimes.
wanted to keep Lincoln. Let's keep Lincoln.
Yeah.
And they kept saying, structurally,
It would, and that's the thing. These that was a discussion we
so
had.
then we even discussed saving the facade. Structurally, once again, come on, what do we do?
Yeah, I mean,
Those
it's
are massive, and you got the community because the community. But I went to elementary there, and I want to keep it.
And that's the thing, Edgewood is rich in culture.
Very, very.
And it's a blessing and it's a curse, right? Because
yeah,
I know.
yeah,
because you're gonna fight for that school. I went there.
That's right.
My mom went there. My uncles, my grandma,
Right, the whole generations.
right.
and to be frank, and not you, Frank, but just to be frank,
I don't want to be frank. I don't want to.
I don't want to be frank, but I'm going to be frank right now.
Neither. I don't want to be frank either.
Neither of us want to be frank. No, it's that the students that are going to those schools, I mean, they're just going to school.
Of course.
You know, it's a lot of these adult issues
Of course.
that get in the way. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you understand it, but as a whole, these the adult issues get in the way of we're not in the business of educating the adults already. We've already done that. We've tried to do that. We're in the business of educating our students right now. What are their wants and what are their needs? And a lot of the times, and I'm glad you said that, Frank. Sometimes culture and history, it can be a blessing or it can be a curse. It can lift us up, but it can also tie us down.
It holds you down. Yeah.
And we have to really think about that. And there's so many other non-educational implications of that. But go ahead.
After this, we're gonna wind down.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
But I have it on recording. After this, I would like to see if you're interested in doing this on a monthly basis.
If we're available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're available
Yeah,
on a
we can
monthly,
try to set
so
one.
that you can share maybe new stuff that's coming up that you want to share, that kind of thing. I'm not I'm not prying. Okay, I just want to let the community know what's
That's okay.
going
I
on.
like
You
it.
know.
You know, and that I'm glad you brought that up as far as not crying, but you as a citizen, you're entitled to this information,
Of course
and it's
we are,
all
of
online,
course.
right?
And
it's
it is.
all
It's all
online.
public,
It's all
yeah.
available.
It is public. Yeah.
So for Edgewood, for example, we don't have bonds, we don't have any new construction, anything new, right? So that means that our budget, these are recurring items. Okay? So every month when we approve these expenses, they've been there for years and they're not changing. Now the vendor might change or we might have to renew something or make an amendment, but there is no new, like I said, where
I
we're
get it.
like hundreds of millions of
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah,
You know?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so just keep that in mind. For our community, we're not going to see like these bigger schools that they're growing. These districts, man, they're huge. In New Braunfels, for example, I mean, those guys have 3 bonds that they got approved in a matter of 5 years. Okay, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, and I don't mean to go off course, but just so we can see where we are.
But that's where people are moving to. They're moving outside of the
Right,
city.
right. So it's just another factor in why we're not growing. Now we're attracting other kids. Now with our neighbor, as Eisd, with their closures, we're going to see some of those flow over to our side, which is great. You know, so and a lot of our programs, some of these partnerships, these 1882 partnerships that we're doing, we're inviting other kids from other schools, from other districts, from other areas of San Antonio and surrounding areas.
So on that note,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. On that note, how can, and this is a new thing that we're trying to introduce. Okay. We're trying to make. We got together, and I know James was there. We had a dinner for Hall of Fame recipients. Okay, what I'm trying to do is gather these recipients because a lot of the questions that were being asked to us is like, "What's gay? Eres Hall of Famer? ¿Y qué? What do you do? What do you do?" You know. So I want to make it so that, hey, you know what? We are doing something. A lot of these people are retired.
Yeah.
And, you know, unless you ask them to do something, they won't. You know, so the idea is to bring them back and say, hey, you know what? Edgewood is having this event coming up. Why don't we get together a booth or something, and you can talk to the community. You don't have to be specific as to one person. You can just mingle.
Yes.
And I think that in itself I want to make sure that they all have their. I had ordered these special shirts for them. If I can get the sponsor again to do it, that way they can be identified. And this is what the Hall of Famers are doing. They're coming back and they're giving back to our community. So that's one of the things. So my question to you is, how can we, as a group, as a foundation, as the Hall of Famers, how can we give back at this point? Because again, we're dealing with low enrollment. We're dealing with loss of funds and so forth. I know the foundation. We're trying to raise more money to give back to the teachers in the classrooms for our kids. What can we do other than what we're doing now to help?
I can add a few things. I mean, so the first thing is because we're an educational institution, we just have to frame whatever you want to do, whatever resources you have with whatever we need to match those resources with the needs of the students. Now you mentioned an important thing, which is what it sounds like is like mentorship almost. You know what I mean? And so I would say what I want to see is more intergenerational discussion, more intergenerational occurrences happening, because we want our Hall of Famers to come and to just interact with our students. However, we also need to consider what are the needs and what are the interests of our current students. And sometimes there's a gap there because our students now, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, their motivations are not the same motivations as 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I think we have to come with that mindset of, yes, you have been through this. Even myself, I have to check myself too, because even 10 years ago, school was different than it is today. And so I would just recognize that we can start with the history, and that's important, of people, how they became a Hall of Famer, but then also listen to our students, because a lot of our students need to be heard. We need to know their interests, their motivations, because we're not there to help ourselves. We're there to help them.
See,
and I think our Hall of
you're
Famers
right.
know that, and they just need to be able to identify what is your interest.
Yeah.
If you don't know, let's talk about it. If you want to be an engineer, there's
Yeah.
another Hall of Famer that I know
Yes.
we're probably thinking the same person.
Uh-huh.
Let's connect you with her. So we need to have those connections
Yes.
with our current students.
And you're right, the age gap it may be an issue.
And it's not a bad thing or a good
yeah,
thing.
it's just
a thing.
to find someone to talk to them. Again, we're talking about listening to these students, listening to their needs and stuff. And this to me would be, anybody. We have Mario Longoria, Dr. Mario Longoria,
Yes.
was a veteran, went to war,
Yes.
came back, got his PhD.
Yes.
Okay, which is, I think, really, really
It's a huge deal.
amazing.
Yes.
Yes. Now he's on his third book, and all his books are focused on Edgewood people. So, in that itself, they may not be interested in what he's writing about, but they
Right.
might be interested in doing a comic book, in
Yes.
doing, something like that.
I was gonna
okay?
say the interest might not be there for like maybe
The topic, right.
but the skills.
Right.
The
right.
skills are
And
gonna
this,
change.
yes.
We also have
You know.
Bill Celis, Celis. He was a student at Brentwood once upon a time. He ended up going and teaching in California at some university, and he is finishing his Edgewood book right now.
Good. Yeah.
There's a lot, and we're not just stressing, that we don't want to live on just Edgewood's history. We want to create new history.
Thank you. Yes.
We want to
Yes.
make these kids understand that what they do today will reflect in the future, and we want to bring them back as well. Now, we won't be here forever, but we're hoping that we can pick up gaining the interest from the younger generation, because a lot of it is not there.
You know what the kids are missing in Edgewood is motivation.
Yes.
They don't understand why we're in school.
Okay, can
We
I
don't
ask you a question
Ask me 100 questions.
before I lose my train of thought?
Yeah.
Can you ask and find out what would be, and I would be willing to give these away, to have them put in the libraries at least, the West Side Stories, because it has stories of our own.
Of our own.
Okay?
Okay.
I never wrote stories about anybody else except of our own. There's nothing negative in there, but I really think that if anybody wants to know about somebody, it'd be good for them to know, hey, look, they did a story on them on the cover. You know, I mean, we have a lot of great people, and I have asked before, and at one time, you know, George used to buy my magazine, but I felt kind of guilty because I really wanted him to have them available for people to see. And recently, I haven't done anymore, so I'm starting back up again soon. And this will be one of the stories.
Yes.
I would love to be able to, if the kids would be interested in writing for the magazine, put their stories in there, that kind of thing. I would like
I love that idea.
you know, is their perspective of the community now, of their district now. I'm writing about people in the past. Let's get the idea, the thoughts of the kids today.
Yes.
And I know there's writers there. I know
You see,
there's
we have a
writers.
guy that graduated right before we did, who wrote, who, with a little camera, made a movie. Please Don't Bury Me Alive. That movie right now is in the Library of Congress. The day that they voted in Ferris Bueller, and the day that they
True
voted
Grit.
in True Grit, they voted his. And he's an
And he's
reader.
considered-
I love that.
And do you know that he's been begging to come and bring his 3, 4, 5 movies? Who's gonna let him? All they have to do is show him. He just wants to see them. What the community is seeing.
And here's where we can partner. Is that if y'all have the connections with these people.
Sure. I have breakfast with that guy every Thursday. Efraín Gutierrez, considered the first Chicano filmmaker in the United States.
Wow. And so
Edward Prado.
I think that's where we can collaborate. Y'all know the people, and maybe we can get us. You know, we can help organize, or even just put it on our social media. Hey, this is happening. Come to this.
You know, and very recently, we lost Blood In, Blood Out. The guy who did the murals for the movie, and he was an
Adan
Edward,
Hernandez.
Adan,
Adan Hernandez.
and he was a Red Raider.
And I think you typically, and let me just from experience, typically, you know, parents, community members, students, they don't go to the board meetings unless they're being recognized.
Sure.
So, and I would say the same thing with the magazine. If you put those kids' stories in the magazines and you present them, come on, you're gonna get the whole family there.
But we
Well-
gotta educate the community. I'm a firm believer because I saw it work. I saw it work. We took 4 bus loads of parents to Austin. 4 bus loads. And one of the legislators is walking by and she says, I want to say something to you. He says, you're not my constituent. And she turns, she says, every time you vote, you're fixing me. And the guy goes, we had educated our community.
Yeah. Well, and I agree. What does education look like? That's a discussion I'm trying to have, because even that, and I know we're kind of winding down, but even that is contested. Because it's political. I mean, let's just say it. Education is political, because what you deserve to learn and what I deserve to learn can be 2 different things depending on who you ask. If you ask 100 people, they're gonna have 100 different opinions.
Okay, we're going to wind down at this point.
I'm just getting ready to
anything
go.
Oh, venga. Mira. I'm not going
I need
to.
another cup.
Anything you want to end with, or any last comments on your brain? Or are you
It's
brain dead
lunchtime?
already?
He's out of ideas.
Are you done?
We're looking at tough times, tougher than before, especially for our teachers and our kids, right? We want high quality education, instruction, right? But at what cost? Because the state is involved, of course, the Fed, and we have to abide, right? We have to follow their mandates. It's like normally you want to see a win-win situation,
No,
but I can't say that
Not gonna
I can see that right now. We can turn it into something that we feel is a win-win, but again, at what cost? Right?
James, last comment. Okay, never
I'm
mind.
having the last word. No, hang on.
Well, hopefully
I-
not the last one. Hopefully we'll be meeting
No,
again.
that's one today. For me, it's our community, Edgewood community, and not just Edgewood, but we're talking specific. Edgewood, we have been. We have to take some responsibility for us being either ignored or overlooked and that's one thing I'm always going to bring up, is that we cannot afford to be humble anymore. We cannot afford to be quiet, because if not, we get overlooked, and that includes politically. Our, when we vote, when we go to the polls, when we elect any of our representatives, that is our voice, and that's the least we can do, not the most. The least we can do as people who can vote, as U.S. citizens, is to go to the polls, vote, because now you get to have an opinion. If you don't participate, I'm sorry, you don't get to have an opinion. And that is our strength as a community, because we've seen how many people come out, how many people don't come out to vote. And we have very low turnout in Edgewood, in San Antonio, in Texas. And so we need to recognize that is one of the things that is going to make the most difference. Even though it's difficult, even though it gets complicated, we need to be able to put our voice in there and say, hey, this is who I want to represent us. This is who we need to speak up for us. And once that's over, now the work begins, because now we have to hold them accountable. Because a lot of what I would just, again, I'm going to be you again, I'm going to be Frank again, is that a lot of what we get blamed for local stuff is not in our purview. It's from the state, it's from the federal government. And most people don't understand that. They think we can do whatever we want, but we just follow the law like we're supposed to, because yes, if we do something illegal, guess who gets sued? We do, the school board. And you know what, we can't afford that, because we have so much positive things going on in Edgewood. We just need to do a better job at sharing them. We need to be tuned every day. We need to every day, and every time someone does anything, whether it's a Hall of Famer or whether it's a current student, whether it's a parent, we need to be shouting it from everywhere. And that's what I'm going to say, is that when we're quiet, then we get told, well, you didn't speak up. When we're loud, they tell us that we're a bomb, we're trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm okay being trouble, because we need to be trouble. We need to be good trouble, and we have that history. But I think, like Yvonne mentioned, we need to we need to keep making history today and tomorrow for our students. So that's kind of where I am today.
Okay, well, thank you both for being here today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your ideas. Thank you, Dana. And it's all gonna be for the benefit of our community.
Yes.
So, in that note, we have discussed possibly meeting again in the future. And if we do, we'll run a second segment on this, because I really think that it is very important for us to keep that open communication.
Yes.
And I will add, if Edgewood will ever send me anything that they're doing and send me a photo that I can print, I will gladly use it. Okay, I have no problem doing that. I would, again, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.